Good evening, guys, and happy Monday to all of your sunshiny faces. Guys, we ended up going out to see the new Spider-Man movie, which honestly, guys, like, I will just first say it's a great movie. I will try really hard not to spoil anything, but I'm probably gonna say a couple things about it right now that again are hopefully not huge spoilers or anything like that. I'm hopefully gonna try and say not anything that's too spoilish right now, but I think, like, again, from trailers or anything like that that have already come out for the movie, it's, you know, sort of like obvious a little bit, I think, what's maybe it's slightly based on. So I'm hopefully not spoiling anything more than the trailers already do, but like, you know, again, sort of spoiler warning, I guess. But for me, it was just a huge sort of, I think, like, nostalgic movie, and that was really cool. I really liked it. It was really funny. Like, I obviously have, you know, and I saw the ratings on Rotten Tomatoes, it's like 99% or something like that, or the fan ratings was like super high too, and that's even also pretty crazy because I think the first two, like, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies were also ranked really high, like they're like 90 or 93 or something like that. Also too, guys, what is going on with my hair? Why is there random pieces sticking up all over the place? So yeah, I know that those, I think the first two, like I said, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies were ranked really high. I think the two Andrew Garfield movies were not quite that high. Actually, I think they were pretty low, like 50 to 60% or something like that. And I think the third Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie was also not ranked very high either. Maybe like a 75 or lower than that, I think, something around there. But like I said, because we were just watching them the other day, so I saw all of those, but I heard that this one was ranked insanely high. I don't even know what the actual first two Tom Holland Spider-Mans were also like, again, Rotten Tomatoes ranking wise. I don't want to say that there were things that I would like change about the movie, but it seemed like there was an insanely high amount of dialogue, and sometimes it almost just seemed a little bit like repetitive dialogue, or like I almost knew it was coming, sort of like conversations and stuff like that. And it was also very, very dark. Like, everything except for, I feel like, the beginning of the movie sort of seemed like it took place like at nighttime, or again, it was dark out and stuff like that. And I'm not totally opposed to that. I felt like there was a lot more that could have been captured with maybe like brighter lighting and stuff like that. And I'm not like, and I get the tone maybe of the movie was captured well because of that, but again, there was just certain elements where I was like, oh, I really wish that I could have seen that while it was like light out or something, you know, the lighting was a little bit brighter or something along those lines. So again, it's not that I'm super critical, but I feel like, honestly, for some reason, I thought The Eternals was also a really, really good movie, but for some reason it was like, there were certain points that just didn't seem to land for me too. And I don't want to say it all that it was the same with like this Spider-Man movie, but there were things that I like completely predicted, or was sort of like, oh, like that's just really convenient, you know, sort of things too sometimes. Like, you know, again, something happens and you're like, oh, you know, or they need, you know, like a character needs something, so it just happens to be there. You know, sort of like, again, coincidental things that wind up happening. But I feel like, again, like, that's just how stories are. I feel like coincidental moments happening in movies, stories, books, all that kind of stuff has to happen a lot of times, but, you know, for the story to progress. But like I said, it's just sometimes I'm like, oh, like, you know, like, I don't want to say that it's me being critical at the same time too, but again, like, that whole sort of thing I feel like I've been doing a lot lately and watching movies, and, you know, like I said, I don't know, like, really like scrutinizing and analyzing movies a lot instead of just enjoying and watching them. And so that's why, again, not at all that I'm going to say like I didn't love this movie and that was not amazing, but Matthew was like, oh, I think I like this one actually more than like Infinity War and Endgame, and I was like, I actually don't know that I would put it at, like, those two would probably still be my favorites, but like, it's tough because I feel like my favorite MCU movie is actually Captain America and Winter Soldier, just because of the way it made me feel the first time I watched it. Was like so stinking, like I was on the edge of my seat watching that movie. And the same with like Infinity War and Endgame, and I feel like those sort of almost can't be topped just because of it bringing all of the Avengers like together and stuff like that, and you know, all of the characters really from the MCU almost in total together in one movie was just amazing and so cool. You know, really more in Endgame I feel like, but the same in Infinity War, like setting it up for that as well. And just to like the way Infinity War made you feel, like, and that anticipation too, like I had never been so upset that it was gonna be like a whole year before we ended up seeing Endgame. You know, because I think it was like they were about a year apart, and so like just like the devastation I felt after watching that movie, and you know, even after Endgame I feel like too, but really after Infinity War, wanting the second part to come out already. And again, that was sort of, you know, like I just like I can't break the way I felt after first watching that movie. Like it'll always have that like sentimental sort of piece, and that was the same way with Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, was just because of, you know, again, sort of that like how they made me feel the first time I watched them, because I watched the second and third one both in theaters, and like I just loved those movies. And we watched the first one too when it came out. Like we watched it, we didn't see it in theaters, but we watched it like fairly recently after it came out, like on DVD. And so like I said, I was, you know, those movies, like I was just, it has that total nostalgia factor. And so like I can't get rid of the way that those movies, like going back and watching them the other day though, I was like, wow, this was like everybody was just in those movies, everybody screaming into the camera. Like honestly, if you go back and watch those, it's like every single time, like they always do a close-up of like something's gonna hit somebody, and it's always constantly like something's going to, you know, like I said, fall on somebody, and they're always just like screaming, and it's just like a close-up of them like screaming all the time throughout that movie. And now I'm like, that's really annoying watching that. But again, there wasn't a lot of comic book movie standards that were set at that time, so I feel like again that was sort of just the terror in, you know, like the average pedestrian sort of from that time, and that's probably what would happen. But it was just, like I said, after watching the third one I was like, wow, they just kept doing this through 3 of them, and it got kind of annoying. And it was just sort of again the way they like filmed it and the style and stuff like that, and then again it changed, thankfully. But you know, like I said, even though it definitely has a lot of flaws, I feel like, and some parts maybe didn't age quite as well, it's still like I can't again shake the way it made me feel when I first like watched those movies, or again like that nostalgia factor. The same with again like Infinity War and Endgame, and the same with Captain America Winter Soldier. And I've gone back and rewatched that one a couple times. I feel like the suspense maybe isn't there just because I know what's coming. It still really leaves me like feeling like, you know, like that same sort of way. Movie, although it was insanely cool, I thought it was just so, again, like I said, I'm not gonna try and spoil anything. There were obviously parts in there where I was just like starting to get critical of stuff and things, and I felt like that's the way I've been with a lot of movies that I've been watching lately, and I'm really upset at myself for feeling that way. You know, I'm like, oh, they shouldn't have done that, or like, oh, that was a dumb decision, or you know, like something like that, and I'm like, I just don't know why I can't just enjoy the movie right now. You know, or again like, oh, that was kind of convenient, or oh, I knew that was happening, you know, gonna happen, or whatever. Like there haven't been any of that like real bombshell sort of moments where I didn't sort of see something happening or coming or whatever. Other than, again, there were several moments I feel like that did happen, but so which is why again I feel like it's really one of my top favorite movies. But I still would definitely say that I think like Endgame and Infinity War for me are probably at that top like tier. And that's the same way too, like my dad says they went to go see the Avengers, the first one, when it came out in theaters, and I never got to. And so they, you know, have that nostalgia factor, and so that's why my dad's like that just won't be broken, like, you know, sort of thing. He's like, I could go back and just watch this 100 times. I honestly thought when I saw the Avengers, like when I saw the first one, we were rewatching them before we went to go see Infinity War, because I hadn't seen that one. I honestly didn't think it was one of the best ones that I had seen. And so that was why too, like, you know, going back though, my dad still puts it so high just because it was so cool, so revolutionary, seeing all of these characters that had all, they're all, you know, separate movies sort of come together at one time was so cool. And again, sort of the same thing too with like Endgame and Infinity War was sort of the same thing too, getting to see all those characters that you've been watching for so long then actually get to be all in a movie together. And so that's why, like I said, there's that nostalgia factor. For me, I didn't have that with the first Avengers movie really, so like just going off of like, you know, the action, the cinematography, the story, the plot line, all those kind of things, I was like, it still ranks really high for me as far as my favorite ones. It's just like not my favorite. And my dad's probably is still the like original Avengers is probably one of his favorites. So like I said, you know, I sometimes too I have to take those ones out because I think the ones when they all come together are just really cool ones. So like if I take like the Avengers movies out specifically and just look at like the individual movies, then that's when I probably would put like maybe this Spider-Man movie ahead, like top tier, or like top movie, and then probably a very, very close second would still be Captain America and Winter Soldier, just because like I said, I don't know why, like I still just love that movie. I think it was, like I said, how my dad feels about like the Avengers movie. So, you know, like I said, in that case, but I still don't think that I could put really like the Infinity War or Endgame ahead of it. But again, I'm just a little mad at myself because I do feel like I have been sort of critical of like movies that I've been watching lately, and I don't really know why that is so much. I didn't really feel that way when I was watching the Shang-Chi movie. I felt like it was like something so totally different. It actually didn't make me feel like I was watching a Marvel movie, and that was actually really cool because I really liked the story, the plot line, the you know, like I said, all of the different like elements of it. To me, it felt like a Marvel movie still, but also still felt so like individual, and I thought that that was really cool. I really liked that one. I don't know why I couldn't really get into watching the Eternals movie for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know if it was just like the day I was having or something like that, but for some reason I just like was not really focused on it, and I felt like I missed, like, I don't want to say I missed chunks of it, but like there were certain parts where I was like, oh wait, and then like trying to backtrack and connect things that were going on, which was a tad bit maybe how I felt with this movie too. Like you almost have to backtrack a little bit to sort of understand what was going on, and I felt like maybe other MCU movies were also like referenced, and sometimes I was like, wait, I have to figure out what they were talking about when they said that or did that, or you know, whatever, and some stuff was maybe a little bit confusing. And so, you know, like I said, wasn't really that bad at all, but I don't want to sound insanely critical of it, but there were certain points where I was sort of just like, okay, this seems like a lot of dialogue, like when are we going to move on from this point? And like I remember thinking that like at least twice during the movie, and it seemed like it was almost repetitive both times sort of too, and I don't really know when or where that was, but I just remember thinking that. So yeah, like I said, I don't know. I don't want to say like, oh, there could have been more action or anything like that, but again, there were different points where I was just sort of like, I don't want to be critical of things anymore in movies and stuff like that, but sometimes I just am. I feel like I just need to like relax myself, maybe even go in with no expectations, because sometimes I feel like when I do go in with expectations, sometimes they do get ruined a little bit. And I'm expecting like, oh, I'm expecting this thing to happen at this point, or I'm expecting, you know, like this stuff or whatever, and I feel like watching the trailers to stuff sometimes spoils it. Matthew like tried so hard to avoid watching any trailers for the Spider-Man movie, and that's why he was like, this is like my favorite Spider-Man movie, because again, I think that he didn't have a lot of those same like the trailers, because sometimes when you see stuff and then you're expecting it to sort of either be in like a certain order, or you're expecting one thing to be more impactful because you saw it in the trailer, and maybe that was sort of the same thing too, was that sometimes when you see that you're like, oh, I thought it was going to be more about this, and then it turns out to not really be about that or something, or it's not so much of a focus point. And so I feel like that was with a lot of movies that I watch. I feel like I get ruined things get ruined for me by the trailer, but at the same time too, I feel like I need to watch the trailer to like to really be like excited for a movie as well. And so that's why though I feel like Matthew, you know, like, but that's the thing though, is that like with the MCU movies, you know that they're probably going to be good regardless. You don't need to watch the trailer to find out. I feel like a lot of other movies you really have to, because you don't know if they're going to be good movies or not. But like I have to trust that the MCU movies will be good and that I don't need to watch the trailer. So maybe that is like in the future I don't have to. Even though I think I've already seen the one for the new Doctor Strange movie that's coming out. So that's why, like I said, I just need to maybe not be as not have expectations for certain things, or again, like, and I don't want to say like, oh, I expect it to be like this, but just like I need to not like watch the trailers to expect something that's going to be more impactful in the movie or not, or think that something's going to be more about one thing or another than it really is going to be. And this one, I actually feel like the trailer was pretty, like, it didn't spoil too much and was pretty accurate and didn't change things up way too much more than what you actually ended up sort of seeing, I guess, as well, if that makes sense. Like, there wasn't something in the trailer that made me feel like, oh, they just showed this for like just the trailer, just to show it in the trailer, and then didn't really touch on it too much in the movie, but made it a big emphasis in the trailer. I do really feel like the trailer did emphasize what they showed in the movie, but I feel like a lot of times, especially with the Marvel movies, they make you think that it's going to be like, oh, about this thing, and then it's sort of not, just because they not to really like point you in the direction of what the movie's actually going to be about. So it's more of a haha sort of moment, you know, in that or whatever, in the actual movie. So again, I need to take a shower though and get to bed, guys. I didn't realize this vlog was actually going to be entirely about just talking about this. I thought it was going to be a brief little thing. Anyway, I'll see you guys all in tomorrow's vlog. If you guys did enjoy today's, make sure you guys give a thumbs up. If you guys are new, we'd love if you'd subscribe, and I'll see you all over sunshiny faces tomorrow. So bye, guys.